Hello. I'll be using this because I'm discovering about a show called Happy-Appy. Sometime during 1999, after Noggin was launched, Nickelodeon started a new show on their program called the Happy-Appy. It sounds like some nursery rhyme that a babysitter would sing, but it wasn't. It was a short show, around 10 minutes, and normally played in duets, making each episode about 20 minutes, minus commercials. A month after it premiered, it was pulled off the air and it was never aired again, even its nicer episodes. However, some parents did record the show, but they were only VHS copies. But of those VHS copies, only some copies actually survived. However, what was really rare was an intact DVD copy of any episode. I was one of the lucky ones that actually had a DVD copy. Yesterday, when I did some spring cleaning recently, winter spring cleaning, but who cares, I found some old DVDs with Sharpie on them. They read HA 1 through 10. I did some research by using Google, and on Roblox, unfortunately, I found out that those were initials for Happy-Appy. In the replies, they said that there are no DVD copies around, which is false because I actually have some copies. So I decided to put them into the disk drive, praying for them to work. Well, they did, and they instantly cut to the intro. By the way, I haven't really described the show, have I? There's this giant clay apple with hands and feet being held up by a rusty wood-bent stick. He helped children when they got hurt. But as the show progressed, it just got creepier, like death stare and evil smile creepier. However, they did change the stick to a non-rusted but still bent stick. By the 8th episode, he wasn't even a clay model. He looked more like he was CG, but he wasn't. Probably very good animation? To describe more about the colors of Happy-Appy, his eyes were dark blue, his mouth was dark green, and he had a leaf on his head. His intro song had the same tune as Mary Had a Little Lamb. It went something like this. Happy-Appy, Appy-App, Happy-App, Happy-App, repeated 3 times. Anyway, enough with that. Let's describe the actual show episodes. Episodes 1 and 2 were called Happy's Vacation and Herd Happy, respectively. Happy's Vacation was exactly what you thought it was. Happy going on vacation and helping kids at the beach. Herd Happy was about Happy getting hurt and the kids helping him by giving him fruit and band-aids, which is weird because they gave him an apple in one part. Nothing seemed out of place when I first saw it, but when I saw it a second time, it looked very odd. While Happy was driving his van in Happy's Vacation, some frames were skipped. I ignored it, saying that it could be a scratched DVD, but when I checked it, it wasn't scratched. Also, I noticed some out-of-place objects in Herd Happy. In Happy's van, there was what looked like the border of the Obama's Hope poster. Also, the radio plays a country music askew version of the song Hot and Cold, which was made in 2008 and very out of place for a kid's show. I thought they were just coincidence, but I was wrong. Episodes 3 and 4 were stranger. One moment that could send chills down anyone's spine was the boo-boo scene in episode 4. Happy had a child that had a bruise on his knee. He looks to the camera, death stare on face, and says, "What does Nate," I think that was his name, it wasn't Kevin, "need for this beating?" For 30 seconds he stared at the camera motionless, his dark blue soulless eyes locking on with anyone watching. Finally he spoke. "That's right, a Band-Aid!" Why did he need that long to speak? I don't know. The intros were cut out, and the main episodes were missing a few scenes. On episode 3, 512 is when he does his first death stare evil smile. For 30 seconds. It was somewhat eerie. Also, the out-of-place objects were getting much more noticeable. There was a news broadcast about a tsunami that recently struck Japan. Happy said, "Oh no! If you want to help the Japanese, call this number!" And a 1-800 number was listed. I watched episode 5. First off, it had Happy on a new stick. Second, this episode was very violent. In the episode, Appy was doing his trademark death stare smile for half the show. Afterwards, he helped 2 children. The first one he took out of sight behind a bush. Blood is seen from the bush and screams are heard. The other kid waits for Appy. Then he's seen emerging from the back of her, then it skips frames. Next thing I see is a blood trail leading to another bush and Appy doing that damn smile. Episode 6 showed Appy doing a death stare, but it was hardly viewable. Then it went to static for the rest of the show. I couldn't believe it. I moved on to episodes 7 and 8. This time, the episodes were so violent and so badly made that they couldn't have been aired on Nick. Episode 7 had Appy take a kid into his van. Flesh cutting could be heard, and so could blood splatters on the windows and screams. which turned into gurgles. Then he emerged, doing that death stare and smile from 9:21 to the end of the show. Or 10. Like I said, 8 had him to be a CGI-est monster. But this episode was so coincidental, I couldn't believe Nick would even allow it. It starts off with Appy going to the playground, telling kids about the cycle of life. By cycle of life, I meant frogs and plants. Then kids said, "Thanks, Happy!" But then, smoke creeped behind Happy, so Happy and the kids turned around. 2 towers, 9/11 mentioned in 1999, were burning up, with people falling off. There was one possible photo of the towers. A lot of screaming, fire, and crashed airplanes. The tail could be seen sticking out of the towers. I could hear a faint whining noise, and I think it was the airplane. Then, a piece of it broke off, possibly hitting and killing someone. When the kids asked, "Happy, what are the towers doing?" It cut to a kid that was stuck under a huge metal piece crying for help. Some other kids wanted to help him. They tried to help him. He was screaming so loud it was almost heartbreaking. There was blood everywhere, and the fear on his face was so realistic that I actually cringed. Appy turned to the camera, and just like the photo on the top right-hand corner, said these 3 words. "That's natural, children." He then dragged them away, leaving the trap kids screaming. I jumped out of my seat. Was Happy a deathbringer of some sort, or was he just some master predictor? I had to continue. Episodes 9 and 10 were up. Oh. And do you want to know what happened when I called that phone number? I'll call it tomorrow.